The archetypes are the hidden patterns that shape our thoughts, our feelings, and our stories, long before we are even aware of them. Why do heroes always go on a journey? Why does the mother always nurture and protect? Why does the wise teacher arrive at the exact moment we are ready to learn? These are not coincidences. They are not just storytelling devices or cultural cliches. They are archetypes, deep, universal forces that live within the human psyche. You did not invent them. You were born into them. They existed long before you had a name, a memory, a language. You have seen them in myths and fairy tales, in ancient religions and modern films. But more importantly, you have lived them. The moment you overcame fear, the moment you felt the need to protect someone, the moment you heard a voice inside you whispering truth. You were not just acting, you were embodying something. Ancient, something eternal. Archetypes are the soul's language. They speak in images, in instincts, in dreams. They are the blueprint beneath your personality. And they shape your journey, not from outside, but from within. Today, I will show you 4 of the most powerful archetypes: the hero, the mother, the shadow, and the teacher. Not to label you, but to help you remember who you already are. What are archetypes? Archetypes are not personalities. They are not habits. They are not fixed roles. They are primordial patterns, ancient symbolic energies that live deep within the human psyche. You don't create them. You don't choose them. You are born into them. They are part of what I call the collective unconscious, the psychological inheritance of humankind. Just as your body carries the imprint of biological evolution, your mind carries the imprint of psychic evolution. And within that imprint are the archetypes. You've met them in stories. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the sage. You've met them in dreams. The child, the monster, the guide, the lover. But they are not only in myths and movies. They live in your relationships, in how you seek love, face danger, deal with loss, and search for meaning. They shape how you react to fear, how you long for wholeness, how you imagine yourself in times of crisis or transformation. Think of them as internal characters, but also as forces of nature within your soul. The archetype of the hero is not just about bravery. It is the energy that compels you to move forward despite fear. The mother is not just about nurturing others. She represents the instinct to protect, to care, to create. These patterns are not conscious. They move beneath the surface. They speak to you in images, in impulses, in feelings. When you watch a film and feel deeply moved, not by the story, but by something deeper that you can't explain, it is likely because an archetype inside you has been activated. To understand archetypes is to begin understanding yourself, your reactions, your dreams, your wounds, your desires, and more. Than that, to understand archetypes is to remember that you are not alone in your experience. You are part of something universal, something timeless. So let us now explore 4 of these great forces. They live within every culture, every myth, every soul. The hero, the mother, the shadow, and the teacher. They are not just patterns. They are parts of you, waiting to be recognized. The hero, the one who must leave home. The hero is perhaps the most well-known archetype, not because we admire strength or glory, but because we all carry, deep within us, the longing to become more than we are. The hero is the one who hears the call, the voice that says, "You cannot stay here." The nudge that pushes you out of safety and into the unknown. In myths, the hero slays dragons, crosses oceans, climbs mountains. But in life, the dragons are often internal: fear, doubt, shame, grief. And the mountain is your own growth. To leave home is not always physical. Sometimes it means leaving behind who you thought you were. Sometimes it means confronting the story others gave you. and writing your own. The hero is the risk taker. In you, the one willing to fail, to be misunderstood, to fall, because something in you knows falling is not the end. It is how you rise that matters. And yet, the hero's journey is never easy, because the greatest battles are not with enemies outside, but with the forces inside. Your own fear, your own laziness, your own unhealed wounds. The hero must confront the shadow, not to destroy it, but to integrate it, because only when the hero accepts their weakness can they discover their true strength. You see, the hero is not the strongest, not the smartest, but the one who keeps going, even when afraid, even when uncertain, even when no one else believes. Every time you choose courage over comfort, truth over avoidance, integrity over convenience, the hero within you is alive. Archetype does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be honest, to say yes to growth, even when it hurts. And if you ever feel lost on the path, remember, every hero's journey begins in the dark, but it ends in light, not because the world changed, but because you did. The mother, the one who gives. Life and love. The mother is one of the most ancient and powerful archetypes within the human psyche. She is the giver of life, the source of nourishment, safety, and unconditional presence. We meet the mother first, not as an idea, but as a sensation, warmth, holding, food, breath. Her presence teaches us, before language, what it means to be cared for. But the mother archetype is not always gentle. She contains both light and shadow. In her light, she is nurturing, embracing, protective. She says, "You are safe here." But in her shadow, she may become possessive, smothering, controlling, or even absent, cold, and neglectful. The mother lives in more than our relationship with a parent. She lives in our longing for home, in how we relate to food, to sleep, to touch, in how we care for others and ourselves. She appears in our bond with nature, in our connection to our body, in our relationship with the earth, and in our capacity to receive love. The mother is not always a person. She can be a place you feel safe, a memory that softens your heart, a dream where you are held without judgment. She is the ocean, the soil, the arms that rocked you, the voice that once said, "I'm here." To know the mother within is to ask, do I allow myself to be loved? Do I feel worthy of rest, of softness, of compassion? But she also teaches something more difficult, how to let go. Because all things born must eventually be released, and the true mother does not cling. She gives, and she allows life to unfold. When we carry the mother archetype unconsciously, we may overgive, overprotect, or sacrifice ourselves entirely. We may seek to mother others at the cost of our own needs, or we may search endlessly for a love we never fully received. To integrate the mother is to become your own source of care, to learn how to mother yourself, not perfectly, but gently. With awareness and love. She is not just a force from your past. She is a guide toward your own inner wholeness. And when you listen, you may find that the softest voice within you is also the strongest. The shadow, the part you reject, the shadow, is the archetype of everything within you that you refuse to see. Not because it is evil, but because somewhere along the way you were told this part of you is not acceptable. And so you buried it, your anger, your sensuality, your jealousy, your wildness, your fear, your grief. All the emotions and instincts that didn't fit the image of who you were supposed to be. These became your shadow. But what is hidden is not gone. The shadow does not disappear. It waits in dreams, in projections, in triggers. It shows itself in the people you judge, in the things that make you uncomfortable, in the behaviors you cannot explain. You may think you are in control, but if you have not faced your shadow, then it is often the one driving your life. You cannot destroy the shadow because it is not separate from you. It is you, unaccepted. And yet, when you finally stop running from it, when you turn toward the darkness within you, you begin to see something unexpected. Power, because hidden inside the shadow is your untapped creativity, your instinctual energy, your raw emotion, your unclaimed truth. Many people try to be only good, only kind, only light. But light without darkness is blinding, and goodness without wholeness is fragile. The shadow does not want to harm you. It wants to be seen. It wants to be heard. It wants to be brought into the light, not to be erased, but to be integrated. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your wounded self. It is the voice that was silenced, the child who was shamed, the fire that was tamed too early. And when you have the courage to face it, you stop being a divided self. You become more honest, more grounded, more alive. To meet the shadow is not to fall into darkness, but to find the parts of yourself that have been waiting to come home. The teacher, the one who awakens youth teacher, is not always a person. They are an archetype, a force of wisdom that lives deep within your psyche. They appear when you are ready, not when you are certain, but when you are searching. In myths, they take the form of the wise old man or the wise woman. They carry staffs, speak in riddles, and guide heroes through the unknown. But in life, they are more subtle. They arrive in a book that shakes your worldview, in a stranger's words that feel strangely familiar, in a moment of silence when something ancient in you finally speaks. You do not summon the teacher. The teacher appears when the student is willing not just to know, but to listen. This archetype does not give you the answers. It asks better questions. It doesn't hand you a map. It places a lantern in your hand and says, walk. The teacher lives in dreams as a guide, in waking life as a mentor, a therapist, a wise friend. But most often, they rise as an inner voice, a deeper intelligence that says, this is not who you are. Keep going. We often ignore this voice because it does not shout. It whispers. It waits. And when you finally slow down enough to hear it, you realize it was never absent, only drowned out by noise. The teacher awakens the part of you that already knows, but has forgotten. Forgotten that truth does not come from outside validation. Forgotten that the path was never meant to be perfect, only real. Forgotten that wisdom is not about knowing more, but about remembering what matters. To connect with the teacher is not to become a disciple. It is to become a seeker of meaning, of insight, of inner alignment. And eventually, you realize the true teacher is not the one who taught you, but the one who awakened something within you. That is their gift. Not to lead you, but to lead you back to yourself. Why archetypes? Matter you are not one fixed identity. You are not just a name, a role, or a personality type. You are a constellation, a tapestry of stories, symbols, wounds, dreams, instincts, and longings. At different times in life, different parts of you come forward. Sometimes it is the hero, brave, determined, pushing toward the unknown. Other times, it is the mother, nurturing, comforting, or clinging too tightly to what must be released. Sometimes, the shadow takes over, expressing what you refuse to acknowledge. And sometimes, the teacher within you whispers truth you had forgotten. How to hear. To understand archetypes is not to reduce yourself. It is not about putting on labels. It is about becoming aware of the forces that shape your inner and outer life, because what you do not see controls you when you do not recognize the hero. You may endlessly chase achievement, never knowing why you can't rest. When you ignore the shadow, you may project your darkness onto others, blaming them for the war within you. But when you begin to see these patterns, not as mistakes, but as ancient energies flowing through you, you gain the power to choose not to work with them, to speak to them, to integrate them. Archetypes are not outside of you. They are the architecture of your soul. And when you bring them into awareness, you begin to live with more intention, that you no longer act from unconscious reaction. You respond from inner clarity. You make space for the light and the dark, for the seeker and the wounded, for the strength and the tenderness within you. This is the path toward wholeness. Not perfection, but authenticity. And that is why archetypes matter. Because when you know the stories you are living, you can choose to live them consciously. And in doing so, you become not just the character, but the author. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The archetypes are not abstract ideas. They are living energies. They appear in your relationships, in your dreams, in your deepest fears, and your highest hopes. They shape the way you love, the way you grieve, the way you search for meaning. You do not need to become them, because they already live within. What matters is that you begin to notice, to see the patterns playing out through your life, to ask not just what is happening, but who within me is speaking. When you recognize the archetypes, you are not just learning psychology. You are remembering yourself. You begin to live with more choice, more depth, and more honesty. You stop reacting blindly. You start responding with awareness. This is the beginning of individuation, the path toward becoming whole. And that journey does not begin in the outer world. It begins in the silence within, where the symbols live, where the stories unfold, where you are waiting to be met. Subscribe to continue the journey inward, where all stories begin.